This is AMSCO topic 5.3 Industrial Revolutions begin. In addition to new ideas, new technologies were reshaping society. These technologies led to dramatic change in society and economics. This change was so dramatic that it is called the Industrial Revolution. The rigid structure of early factory work described by Adam Smith, Scottish economist and philosopher, is one of the most enduring images of the Industrial Revolution. Industrialization, the increased mercantilization of production, and the social changes that accompanied this shift, and their roots and several influences. Among these were the Columbian Exchange and the rise of maritime trading empires, increased the agricultural productivity, and greater individual accumulation of capital. As the Industrial Revolution spread to Great Britain, to Europe and North America, and then to the world, it reshaped society, increasing world population, shifting people from farm to city, and expanding the production of consumption of goods. Agricultural improvements. Just before the Industrial Revolution in the early 1700s, an agricultural revolution resulted in the productivity, crop rotation, rotating different crops in and out of a field each year, and the seed drill, a device that effectively places seeds into designated spots in the ground, both increasing food production. Also, the introduction of the potato from South America contributed more calories to people's diets. A nation industrialized, their population grew because more food was available to more people. Because of improved medical care, infant mortality rates declined and people lived longer. With these demographic changes, more people were available to work in factories and to provide a market for manufactured goods. Pre-industrial societies. During the early 18th century, most British families lived in rural areas, grew most of their food, and made most of their clothes. For centuries, wool and flax had been raised domestically, and people spun fabrics they needed. However, one result of the commercial revolution and the establishment of maritime empires, see topic 1.4, was the Indian cotton, which became widely available in Britain, and before long, it was high in demand. Wool and flax could not be produced quickly enough or in large enough quantity to compete with cotton imports. To compete with Indian cotton, investors in Great Britain began to build their nation's own cotton cloth industry, using important raw cotton produced by slave labor in the Americas. The British developed the cottage industry system, also known as the putting out system, in which merchants provided raw cotton to women who spun it into finished cloth in their own homes. Homespinning was hard work and the pay was low, but cottage industries gave women weavers some independence. While working in their own homes, they were close to children, but cottage industry production was slow. Investors demanded faster production, spurring the development of countries and machinery that turned out cloth in more efficient ways. Growth of technology. By the mid-18th century, the spinning jenny and the water frame reduced the time that was needed to spin yarn and weave cloth. The spinning jenny, invented by James Hargreaves in the early 1760s, allowed a weaver to spin more than one thread at a time. The water frame, patented by Richard Arkwright in 1769, used water power to drive the spinning wheel. The water frame was more efficient than a single person's labor, and this mercantilization doomed the household textile cottage industry, as textile production was moved to factories big enough to house the bulky machines. Arkwright was thus considered the father of the factory system. Interchangeable parts. In 1798, inventor Eli Whitney created a system of interchangeable parts for manufacturing firearms for the U.S. military. In Whitney's system, if a particular component of a machine were to break, the broken component could easily be replaced with a new identical part. Entrepreneurs adapted this method of making firearms to the manufacture of other products. The system of interchangeable parts was a pivotal contribution to the industrial technology. Whitney's system directly led to the division of labor. Factory owners no longer had to rely on skilled laborers to craft every component of a product. Instead, with specialization of labor, each worker could focus on one type of task. For example, one worker might cast a part, and then another worker would install a part on the finished product. In the early 20th century, Henry Ford explained the concept of division of labor, developing his moving assembly line to manufacture his Model T automobiles. And there's a diagram that shows the growth of British cities in circa 1800. Britain's industrialization advantages. Britain had many environmental and geographic advantages that made it a leader in industrialization. Located on the Atlantic Ocean with its many seaways, the country was well placed to import raw materials and export finished goods. Mineral resources. Britain also had the geographical luck of being located atop immense coal deposits. Coal was vital to industrialization because when burned, it could power the steam engine. The burning of fossil fuel, an energy source derived from plant and animal remains, was also essential to the process of separating iron from the ore. Iron production, and later steel production, allowed the building of larger bridges, taller buildings, and stronger ships. Coal mining became the major industry of the northern and western Britain, including South Wales, Yorkshire, and Lancashire. When the United States industrialized, coal mining areas developed in western Virginia, Pennsylvania, and Kentucky. Resources from the colonies. As a colonized power, Britain also had access to resources available in its colonies, including timber for ships, largely because of the wealth of the accumulated during the transatlantic slave trade. Enough British capitalists had exceeded capital money available to invest in businesses. Without this capital, private entrepreneurs could not have created new commercial ventures. Abundant rivers. Britain in the northeastern United States and other regions also had a natural network of rivers supplemented by publicly funded canals and harbors. These water routes made transport of raw materials and finished product inexpensive. Strong fleets. Britain also had the world's strongest fleet of ships, including the naval ships for defense and commercial ships for trade. These ships brought agricultural productions to Britain to be used for finished products for consumers. Protection of private property. A vital factor that aided industrialization in Britain was the legal production of private property. Entrepreneurs needed the assurance that the business they created and built up would not be taken away, either by other business people or by the government. Not all nations offered these legal guarantees. Growing population and urbanization. The increases in agricultural production caused two shifts in society. As farmers grew more food, they could supply more people. As they grew it more efficiently, society needed a smaller percentage of the population working in agriculture. The growing population in rural areas did not remain there. Migration was sometimes the best of bad options. English towns had traditionally allowed farmers to cultivate land or tend sheep on government property known as the commons. However, this custom ended with the enclosure movement, as the government fenced off commons to give exclusive use to its people who paid it for the privilege or who purchased the land. Many farmers became landless and destitute. The enclosure movement was thus instrumental in a wave of demographic change, forcing small farmers to move to rural areas to urban areas such as Manchester and Liverpool. The people who moved then became the workforce for the new and growing industries.